to Unapologetically Fierce with Faith, brought to you by CKJ Live. This is a safe place where my beloved tribe members and I put anything and everything on the table and dish the unfiltered tea. We are not just a podcast, we are a movement. So get your favorite beverage on hand and enjoy the show.
Ladies, so here we are for another episode of Unapologetically Fierce with Faith. And where would I be without my fabulous tribe? Hey, Tam. Hey, Carrie. How you guys doing?
Hey. Good.
We have two very special co-hosts today, joining us today, Donna and Tiffany. Hi, ladies.
Hello there.
Welcome.
So welcome. Today we are concluding our 4-part series, and we'll probably just add on because, again, this is what we're in. We are in COVID. Today we'll be discussing commerce in COVID. That kind of rhymes. Commerce and COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And I need an intervention because this is like, I remember at the beginning of this, which was probably about we're in week, I lost count of weeks, week 14, 15, 16, I don't know. Anyway, but I know that when we started, because this is something that we didn't even know about before, it's just like, I don't know how it is where you guys are, but Tam, down here, like for a hurricane, everybody just starts scrubbing together, like trying to get everything done, bulk shopping, ordering stuff. Like I found myself ordering excessively, like through my mom has shipped, and I have Instacart. So like we would just trade off, like, okay, some stores weren't on Instacart while others were on Shipped. Thank you. While others were, and we would just trade off. And their big thing is like, okay, you get free delivery after paying $35. So I would have like my cart sitting there, literally. Like once the person left, I'll be like, okay, what did I miss? What do I need to get? And so I found myself like where before I would spend constantly on like either lunch at work or with gas, toll, all of those expenses. And like with all of those expenses cut, you would think, okay, here is my cush money, but it's just like, okay, I'm spending it. I'm spending more on like necessities. The Amazon guy comes here like every day, so I know I need to learn how to control, because I was reading an article and it said that there are people, I guess there are like people that are kind of like, there are two types of people that spend because they're like, oh my gosh, they're still kind of in shock. And I think that with us being this far in, the shock is really worn off. It's like, what else? And like, okay, save. I'm kind of like in between. So what, would any of you guys like, what's your story like? I mean, I've shared my little interventions piece. What about T? What about you?
Well, I would like to think in theory that I'm saving money. I know for me, work was eating out every day for lunch. Like I never took food to work, hanging out after work and going out on the weekends. I was spending a lot of money. Whereas now, we eat at home every day. So I'm saving a ton of money in that regard. But, now the grocery bill is higher because we're eating all where we weren't before. But I still don't think we're at where we were when I was working every day. So I do feel like we're doing better. Initially I was a little really heavy into the Amazon thing. I never did online ordering, and all of a sudden it was like anything I needed was like, oh, Amazon. But I've kind of calmed down with that too. So I think overall COVID has helped me save money. So that's where I'm at with that. I'm doing better.
That's good. I even remember us like on Friday nights, we would just go like happy hour, go on the weekends, hang out. That's like added money. Then you got to think about drinks. You can make your own at home. That's one thing that I've learned. Cheers, ladies. But yeah, so I do feel like now though, I'm like paying bills, like paying off credit card debt because I don't want to be so, at the end of this, I kind of want to be better off than how we started, Carrie, how about you?
Not too much has changed in my world. I'm not a huge retail therapy type person. I'm not a big shopper. I really hate going to the stores. I will order online with Amazon, whatever I need and have it delivered. I have the whole Prime subscription, but I have my same credit cards for the last 5 years. I don't really add too much to it. I'm not a mall person or a designer person or a name brand type person. So in that sense, things haven't changed for me. My husband is a hoarder though. So when all this happened, like he got a lot of toilet paper and paper plates and water and shrimp and all kinds of stuff. But that's what he does. But I kind of get it. I get the mentality. It's more of that survival piece. And I'm glad he has it because it really came in handy. But no, not too much has changed. And with that being said, not too much is being saved even anymore. So that's kind of interesting. Not spending it one way, but it's like it's not being saved another. But yeah, the grocery bill did go up tremendously. But I'm not sure what's happening. But just like you now, I'm kind of reevaluating some steps and making sure that we tighten up in certain places just so that we could get it together, because we should have more of a surplus because we're not really, out and about. So it's like, what's really happening?
Definitely. And then another thing too is that all of us are in a great position being that we're still employed, so take that, minus those additional expenses. It's like, whoa, that's really good. Now, Tiffany, you are like, I've known you forever. I don't know how, it's been like, about 15 years?
That sounds about right. I think about 05 or 06 is when we met in the Urban League. Yeah.
In the Urban League, yeah. And I've always known you to be like a saver.
Yeah, spending money is not my thing.
You're like always like the saver. And that's why I wanted you to come on today, because I'm just like, wow, I admire that, and now you have, you have with your family, you have a toddler, a husband, so it's just like you tighten that up.
Yeah, that toddler requires a lot of spending, let me tell you. But despite that, I think I still do a pretty good job with saving. But you mentioned a minute ago that we're all still blessed enough to be working. I guess I got a little bit of a head start in terms of quarantine, because I don't know if any of you are in the same category with me, but I've been working at home for 6 years now. So quarantine has been my life for the past 6 years, basically. I work in my house every single day, don't go anywhere. Besides, I have to take my 2-year-old to daycare because I would not be able to get any work done if she was home with me all day. So for me, things haven't changed. It's still the same routine that I had pre-COVID. So that's what's going on over on this end.
That's good. Now for the guru, Donna. Why you, Donna?
I'm like, look.
Now, I think I've known Donna for probably around the same amount of time, right?
Well, going to church.
You're breaking up.
Going to church together, right?
Yeah, we met at church, but I think that that was probably like 02, 03.
I have no.
It's been a long time. It's been a long it's been a long time. But Donna, and the reason I label you expert, can you share a little bit about yourself with us?
Okay, so to Tiffany's point, I've been working from home. Tiffany has been working from home for 6 years. I've been working from home now for I'm going into my 3rd year working from home. So pre-COVID, I've been doing this. Only thing that has changed for me as far as schedule go is that there are more people who are working from home. So when I was able to go out and run errands and no one is at the stores, well, now I know, by lunchtime, everyone is out shopping and doing errands. But yeah, for me, before COVID, after COVID, I've been working from home. I love it. So Faith wants me to share about myself. So after I graduated, I don't even know where I start because I've been doing this for so long.
Forever. You've been doing it forever.
Yeah. So as soon as I left undergrad, I went to go work at one of the consumer credit reporting agencies. And I had worked there for like 15 years in their data quality department or data consulting department, ensuring that creditors' data was in compliance with credit reporting standards. So I did that for technically it was 15 years because at some point I was laid off and then I returned back to the same consumer credit reporting agency. So that's how Faith met me because went from Chicago to Atlanta, then back to Chicago. And then once I ended up getting back to Chicago, I wanted a change. And so now I ended up leaving the consumer credit reporting industry itself, but I still do what it is I do. Now I just do it for a medium-sized bank. And yeah, I'm an advisor to all our different departments as it relates to reporting in accordance to consumer credit reporting guidelines. So that's almost 20 years doing it.
Wow. That's why I said stamp pro at it.
Pro, but yeah. Thank you.
What advice could you give us during COVID? Because again, people have drastic trends of either spending or not spending, being scared, all of that.
Only advice I can give, well, it's a couple of things that can be done. I do believe, I never negate anyone's feelings as it relates to concern and scared because everyone reacts differently to the unknown. But there are some things that I do believe, since I had that experience of being laid off, there are some things I do believe that we can do from a financial perspective to semi-prepare us for unexpected situations. So really, I would just start with maybe that person, everyone here, yes, everyone is working, but I'm thinking there are people who may be listening to this podcast that may not be working. Look at it from a standpoint of make sure you have a budget. And follow that budget.
What's that budget? Now I'm just
you put it know how much.
I'm kidding.
And what you plan on spending, and make sure you don't go outside of that. And in the case if someone loses their job, that's where the CARES Act came into play. So some things as it relates to the CARES Act, because it's a ton of stuff. Other than that $1,200 check, some people were eligible for. There are some other things within the CARES Act that was put into place in March to support individuals or those of us who may have either lost a job or may have lost income. So one of those items is that you can call your creditors. You don't need to give them a letter. You don't need to give them a pay stub, anything. And you can call them and ask for what they call an accommodation and due to COVID-19, and they can't question you or ask for supporting documentation. The stipulation behind that, though, is that not every creditor will have an accommodation that may actually defer your payments or give you what is known as a forbearance. Mm-hmm. But again, that's a start. If there's something that you're not able to pay, call your creditor and see what type of programs that they have to assist you with, I call it payment relief, so to speak. But keep in mind, the accommodation, 99.9% of the time, it is not a debt forgiveness program. It is a payment relief program, which means that chances are your payments will be deferred. But at the same time, you still may incur interest. From a credit reporting perspective, they should not be reporting you as past due if you were not past due going into the accommodation. Also, the act was passed in March. U.S. citizens, you can ask for your accommodation to be retroed all the way back to January.
Oh, wow. So that's good. I know that they have a lot of like you look on TV and stuff, and I think I was watching like a Volkswagen commercial, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we can defer your payment for 6 months." Hyundai.
See, that's the whole thing. You have to qualify. You don't automatically get it.
Exactly. And a lot of people aren't educated to see. They're like, "Oh, okay, I don't need a new car, but if I don't have to pay 6 months, then maybe I'll have a job, and maybe, just like kind of like woulda, coulda, shoulda, maybe whatever." And even like with furniture and like because I think that a lot of people are trying to stimulate the economy because a lot of people have missed out. Like these giant retailers, they're being bailed out, but they're suffering and they're needing people to, continue to make purchases and all that kind of stuff in order to get them where they need to be.
Well, I mean, which is true, but what the caveat to that is don't get anything that you don't need, because again, is just that, an accommodation, and at some point you pay. The other thing with the CARES Act, though, is if you have a federally backed mortgage, mm-hmm. if you call your mortgage company and you're impacted by COVID-19, they can give you a forbearance for up to 6 months. And then that's the initial. Technically, it could be up to 1 year. And again, that's definitely fact.
That's amazing. Donna, before you go forward with that, go back to what you said about retroing folks to January. Just add a little bit to that. Tell me what that really means. So COVID didn't hit until March, but for some folks, they can call their creditors and get some of their stuff retroed back to January?
Yeah, so really what it is, you think back with the timeline, right? So the CARES Act was passed in March.
Yeah.
But what has happened is that we do know from reports in the news is that there may have been people impacted by COVID-19 prior to March.
Right. Okay, got you.
Whether it was an illness or maybe. Yeah. And so with them being, quote unquote, impacted by COVID-19, again, just you can call your creditor and pretty much what it'll look like. This is what it'll look like. You've been impacted by COVID-19, and let's say, for instance, you were impacted in February, and you know that is why your payment was late or you couldn't make your payments, right? Call your creditors, let them know that. and talk to them about the quote unquote accommodation. Because again, if your payments are deferred, your deferment and payment history would not report for the time period in which you were impacted by COVID-19. So pretty much if you're doing what I call a retro, it's kind of like you're disputing your with your creditor to pretty much say, hey, FYI, I was impacted by COVID. I see that you reported me as past due, but at the same time, because I was impacted by COVID, I made my payment. This is just an example. Right. It could be a situation where you're just not working and your deferment technically should have went back all the way to January. So again, it's a conversation that you'll have with your creditor to state when you were impacted by, and they should actually take the necessary steps to your information on your account and then information to the credit reporting agency. Also, with any type of accommodation or forbearance program, make sure you get it in writing. Even if it's an email, a hard copy letter, they can tell you yes over the phone, but not until you have that documentation in front of you. Right. That is actually when you have that agreement and they agree to whatever terms that they put in front of you. So.
Got it. How long do we have with this CARES Act, do you think? So we know that, all the governors are trying to get people up and running, the economy back, and people, they're opening up phases where things are getting back to normal. How long do we have? What is our grace period, do you think? You think that, does the CARES Act have an expiration date? Is it like until July? Is it until August? When do you think things will no longer be as lenient?
Pretty much there is a clause within the CARES Act that pretty much says, let me see here. Pretty much when the government, the federal government, number one, will say COVID-19 is no longer a national health emergency. And that I believe it's either 60 days or 120 days after that. I forgot, like there's a time period even after that. But you bring up a good point about governors, because yes, you have a federal law, but then states have individual laws also. So
very good.
But keep in mind too, circle back to creditors though. Creditors aren't required to give an accommodation. So creditors have had the ability to say, number one, yes, you can get it. No, like we won't have a program at all. But if they say yes, some of them have already baked in if you only get 3 months or if you get 4 payments or this accommodation period right now phase is only 6 months.
Right.
So that's just general. But again, mortgages is a totally different ball game, at least federally backed mortgages.
Now, do you think that, I know they mentioned about a possible second stimulus check coming out. What do you think about that? And then I saw something, I was reading something.
I'm just going to tell you now, it's not in this CARES Act. So they would have to pass FY.
Yeah, because that will be a whole lot I was reading something, and again, states go, differently or whatever, where they said that, you could be working and you could be like 16, like a 16-year-old, and it's like, okay, you get your little money, whether it be like $1,200, $1,500, $2,000. And it's like, because you're 16, you have a social security number, you're working. So then you're kind of like, okay, well, I'll give you a check. Now, I don't have any kids, but I know, like Carrie, if if Elijah was to say, okay, well, Mom, I got this. This is mine. I know you as a parent. Like, no, that's mine.
Right. So it's funny because, of course, with the CARES Act that Donna's talking about, kids over, I think, age 18 did not get a stimulus check, although, of course, they were affected by COVID. However, colleges gave a reimbursement, which is interesting. So
really?
we did get a $1,900 check from Elijah's College maybe a week ago. I haven't deposited or anything, and I'm assuming that because I want to call them before I deposit. I'm assuming it's because of the tuition, room and board we paid, and he didn't utilize because they left campus second week of March, and we paid, of course, for the entire semester for room and for board. Food and all that kind of other stuff that we had to dish out. But when it came, he was like, "Oh, so you're going to give me like $500?" I was like, "Absolutely not. No, we're going to put it towards your tuition. Why do you think you're going to get some of this? So you can buy like a belt or something? You're out of your mind."
Yeah, the new Jordans or something, right?
Yeah, your $500, no, sir. No, don't even think about it. No.
An Apple Watch, something.
Right, and yeah, exactly. And he did buy an Apple Watch with his own money, but exactly. But so I want to call the school first to actually find out what this check is for, because if it's for the reimbursement from his room and board and all that stuff, that's one thing. But I know the colleges are supposed to give kids that are in need money specifically for COVID, in addition to what they're giving back for the semester. So very interesting. But yeah, I believe the kids should have received their own check. But to your point, there is supposed to be a fourth bill passed. I just heard Trump is wanting a fourth. I don't know what word he uses for it, but he wants to get another aid going to the people. So that will be this one will be, I think, $4 trillion or something. Unlike how much
I think I saw that.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could have just did it one time and done.
All of this is ridiculous, but hey, it's another show. But thank you, ladies. Are there any more questions on the floor, ladies? Tamara?
No, not from me.
Okay. Tiffany? Well, another great show, ladies. Thank you. We thank you, Donna, for sharing about the CARES Act and informing us about our finances.
Yeah, I mean, thank you all for having me. I will say that.
Tiffany, thank you for sharing thank you for just being stellar, seriously, and that's why I brought you on, because about your spending habits and stuff, a lot can be learned.
Yeah, I know. Well, actually, I didn't go into it totally in depth, but I mean, real quickly, I can just mention that I have been doing some specific things in terms of not spending, which is my favorite thing to do. Not spend is my favorite thing to do. Cooking. I think we're probably all doing a whole lot of cooking at home these days. Just because, going out just isn't, something, even though I don't know where everyone's located, but I know here restaurants are opening back up. I know I'm not comfortable with really going out to eat. And then, of course, delivery has been a very popular thing lately, but I'm cheap, or I'll call myself frugal. And Faith, you and I have spoken about this before. I'll go to order from Uber Eats or something for myself and my husband, and it's coming up to more than $40 for just 2 meals. I refuse. I refuse. So, cooking at home has become, I may order out, I think once or twice a month, really. I keep it pretty rare for us to order out. But I definitely take advantage of, all the grocery store apps, digital coupons, cashback sites, every little bit helps. So whatever I can get back, all the, the more the merrier. So I do that. I do meal prepping. I found a YouTube video a couple weeks ago and I learned how to make burritos in my Instant Pot. So I made them. I have 10 burritos and I wrapped them all in foil. And now I have burritos just to pop into the oven whenever I get hungry. So that's one of the main things I've been doing is being smarter with my cooking and meal prep and just, try not to spend too much money. I'm not spending $40 on ordering food for just one night. I refuse.
Yeah, I feel you. And again, I think COVID has taught us a lot of things about, just being able to save money, being able to focus on the important things and just focus on them, deal with it, and just, live life accordingly. So I think once we get out of this, life will never be the same, but it will be altered. It'll be a different look, and I think we'll be ready for it. Yep. So definitely.
My thing for folks, I'm going to move to the other room, is due to COVID and how we've been impacted, what we all need to do is really adapt a system where we have multiple streams of income. We become entrepreneurs and getting a paycheck, and how we could be creative, because the next disaster is waiting, the next pandemic is out there, and how will we be affected, or not. So I think that will be very important for us to not just take this one as practice, but to take this one as a warning as to what's to come. And we're all getting older, even if you're in your 30s or 40s, we're all getting older, and we need to be more self-sufficient. I think that's what COVID really has said to me.
Absolutely. And just even the focus on small businesses, because now we have all this time, we can kind of strategize at home to see, okay, what is it that we want to do, and just go for it and move with it. I think definitely on, Donna, you're coming back, just FYI, because Donna has her own little business that we'll have you discuss on another show. But I can tell you, she makes the greatest German chocolate cake, for real. So definitely we'll have to have you back. Tiffany, same thing, have to have you back next week. So right now we're going to take a little break from the whole COVID thing. Next week we're going to celebrate Caribbean Awareness Month. So that will be hooray! Bust out the place. Yes, so definitely. But again, thank you for tuning in to Unapologetically Fierce with Faith. We are not just a podcast, we are a movement.
Thank you for joining us at Unapologetically Fierce with Faith, brought to you by CKJ Live. Come back and visit again to hear more of the unfiltered tea that we are ready to dish. And remember, we are not just a podcast, we are a movement.